Welcome back to our chess story series. And in today's game, we have two English masters by the name of Robert Steele and Ross, who were stationed in Calcutta in India. And these two English masters played an absolute masterpiece of a game. So even though I don't have their pictures, we'll just paint them as superheroes today. And they played a superhero-ly game, absolutely, in this performance. We're gonna have the White King running all over the board, and the Black piece is trying to catch up to him, but they never did. So, the first world champion Steinitz used to say, "The king is a fighting piece, you must use it." And that's exactly what Robert did here with his superhero king. Okay. They tried to catch up to him, but the white pieces just helped him out, and the king turned out to be a great attacker indeed. Now, don't do this at home. Okay. Don't do this in your games unless you are a master like Robert. For beginners, we always say castle your king, don't worry about him, and don't be like Robert in this game. But I want to show the exception to the rule. Today's game is an exception. All right. We start off with e4, e5, and we have the Vienna game. The point of the Vienna game, especially the Vienna Gambit, is that we give up the pawn. We say, come and take it. We don't mind. But then, like in the King's Gambit, we get the center from you. Now, most people would play the knight out first and block the queen and don't allow any annoying checks. And Robert says, go ahead, give me a check. I'm ready. Let's go. Ross said, wait, you can't do that. Your king can't castle anymore. I stopped him from castling. Okay, you're right. I can no longer block. If I try to block, I have to pay for it dearly. And in this case, I have to pay with my rook. The whole king side's wide open. This is coming. It's not a fantastic position for white. So that's why most people just run up. Most people say, go ahead, chase my king around. But next time, I get to chase you around because your queen's out and about. My king can always hide. You know, he can do whatever he wants. My bishop will come out later. I'll get your pawn back. It's a lended pawn. I'm gonna lend you the pawn, but I'll want it back tomorrow. Understood? You got that? And black is like, okay, what if I attack you with more pieces, like my bishop? We could attack the queen, but then they have the pin coming in, right? So he decided to be greedy. Starting from this move, Robert's idea is be very greedy and run away. If somebody gives you something, sometimes you can take it and run, 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 run far away from them. Okay, and that's what happened in this game. Let's take a look. We have pawn takes d5, saying hi to the knight, and also making way for the king. The king couldn't run away, but now he's dreaming about the b1 square and saying, ooh, I castled by hand. And Ross says, no, you didn't, because if you try running, I am looking forward to eating your queen. And we have to block. Of course, after we block, the knight is pinned, so both sides are pinned. The knight is pinned, he can take, but neither can the bishop. The bishop can't get me either. So in the actual game, Ross says, do you want my knight? You can have it, but look at my development. My king is castled, my rook is out, my knight's working, my bishop's working, the other file's open. The two front highways are waiting to be invaded. And the rook on h8 is dreaming about the square. And your king isn't castling easy. He's gonna have to work for his castle, work to find his house. And in the meantime, the other pieces will come out. So if you want my knight, and if you want to waste all that time eating free stuff like pawns and knights, go ahead. And that's what Robert does, anyways. Robert says, okay, you know what? You're right. Yep, you're attacking me. That's okay, but I can be greedy. Today, I'm going to be greedy because a good chess player is a greedy chess player. Okay? And even if you come after my king, he can run away. He's got friends. People are looking over him for now. Right? And so another gift comes White's way. It's not a real gift because the pawn is pinned. But the bishop is being real annoying because next move rook takes d4 is a threat. Remember that this guy's pinned and now that guy is also pinned. We have Pins everywhere. The second knight is coming, the second rook is coming, and uh-oh, that's almost checkmate. For that reason, he took and said, let's disturb you. Let's just interrupt your fun. Make sure you're not having too much fun here, right, Russ? And while you're busy picking up my pawn, I'll be busy opening up your king, and maybe I can attack him. Okay, so he distracts black, and black hides under the pawn. Very often we use enemy pawns as shields. You put it on your head and you say, I have an umbrella, you can't get me. And so that's the idea behind king b8. And it's hard to get to this king unless you can get a knight on one of these squares to jump over the pawn. So in the actual game, he said, okay, now that your king is hiding under my umbrella, how about I hide my king under my umbrella? And I can't do it right away. I need a friend. I need to reinforce that umbrella so it doesn't break with the wind. And while the umbrellas are coming, this knight is not really like helping out anyone, but this guy is. Very soon, he'll get a supporting pawn, and then it's a big umbrella. And then the king is really hiding. The bishop comes here, we're winning. Because don't forget, he's up a knight. Okay. Ross says, whoa, 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 you're winning? No, no, you're not winning. No, I have more pieces in. I have won the piece race. Your pieces are not coming out. Your bishops are stuck. Your rooks are stuck. Everything is stuck. But even though they're stuck, why do they need to come? If you can't get me, I don't need to come out. I don't need to work with my pieces because everything is solid. So black has to try and attack all the pieces to the party, and even as they do come out to the party, what do they have to attack? They can chase the king around, and he tries to play the only checks he has, but he can't checkmate, as you'll see in this game. Very hard to checkmate this guy. He has plenty of escape squares on all these light squares, plus the bishop is coming after him. So let's say the king comes here, the bishop can block. And White's pieces are just supporting the king, pushing him forward, saying, you'll be fine. And in the meantime, go eat. Go have a good time. So as the king has to come forward, Black is running out of checks. If the king went there, it would be actually scary. If you're not careful with a king like that, that's how you get mated. Okay? If this was a normal person, a normal amateur player, that's how you lose the game. If you want to have a running king, you're walking a tightrope, and at any point you can fall down this building and break something. All right. For that reason, the king has to go up. He has to walk that tightrope very carefully, very accurately, not to get mated. And so, when the bishop checks him again, he could probably try to run away, but that would be a chicken move, right? And Robert is not a chicken. Robert says, I'm brave. Give me your bishop right now. He picks up the bishop. He's now up two pieces, and he keeps on running. This is a very sneaky move. So you can try to figure out why would he do that. You say, where is that pawn pointing? Ah, he wants this square. And of course, he takes away the square so the king can't run back home. Very soon, there is just knight d7 mate. And if it's not mate, it will be very soon because the white king has to go forward and will get mated with that queen coming in too. Okay, rook d5 could be really scary, right? Because rook d5, then king here, checkmate. This one is a mate, all because we took away his squares. So that's a sneaky hiding move where we take away his squares. Now, white has to make more squares. White stops the check and makes more squares. He says, my king is running short on air, I'll give him air. And now the king starts running back. He starts giving back the ice cream that he got just to let the king survive, just to let the king run away from the pawn and these guys. All right. So we could take, but if he took, I think white is fine, right? Because we can start bringing the knight in. We can probably get the bishop somewhere more useful. We could try to get the queen for free. That would be great too. So a bunch of options. Remember that the bishop used to pin, but the pin is no longer there. So the queen is actually hanging this time around. So for that reason, he can't really take. He has to run away. And he says, King, where are you running to? You can no longer run back home. That's not an option anymore. If you try to block with the knight, checkmate. If you try to block with the pawn, not much better. I think bishop takes would do the trick. Almost anything is winning because you're not running back home, not with such a king. The queen unleashes, everything is unleashed. All right. For that reason, Robert has to get creative and say, get my queen. Here, free queen. And it's a defensive queen sacrifice. How many times have you seen those? We say, come on, queen, let me distract you. Look, butterfly over there. And while you're distracted by the butterfly, my king is just going to hop around and maybe mate you, which is almost what happened in the game. All right. Black doesn't want the queen right away. He gives a little check, considering that this knight is pinned. He cannot take us. So we have to run away to b5. The king has to keep on running. He cannot take this guy. So as the king runs, Black finally picks up the queen and says, okay, are you going to resign? The game's over. Come on. I got your queen. Your king is out here. What are you even trying to do? Just give up. Game's over. And Robert is like, really? Why is it over? Why? I don't see why it's over. I see that it may be over for you because your king is showing squares with my umbrella turning into a friend. Before, the umbrella was only helping Black, but now it's starting to take away squares, starting to look risky, starting to look scary. And even though we have to give away more rooks, they weren't doing much anyways. And while we're giving away rooks, we're distracting you and getting these guys into the party. So let's finish off the game. He took the rook, and we say, hey, 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 checkmate, coming right now. You ready for it? Knight c6, mate, for example. Okay, that's a very cute way to finish the game, except it didn't happen. Of course, Ross was a master. He was a good player, clearly, which is why he took the knight. He got rid of this scary guy who was going to checkmate him. So it looks like there is no checkmate left. But wait a second. The bishop can still mate. We could take right away, but then this is a problem. Suddenly it's a discovery, then he can give up this guy, the knight is falling, there's no more mate. That's why he got sneaky and took the rook first and says, mate, next turn. Ready for mate? It's coming. Okay. At this point, Ross got scared and just defended. He said, your bishop will never get to me. Your bishop can take, but he'll never get to me. And I still have my queen, sir. You can resign now. Game's over. What is it? Again, Robert comes out of nowhere with pawn takes knight and says, checkmate, again, coming, again. And your king is in trouble, again. And as you're picking up my knight, checkmate, again. All right. So if you don't want to get mated, you should push your pawn. And as you push your pawn, the bishop has to find another way into their house. He could have tried g5 as well, but that wouldn't really help. That would just push my bishop back with the same idea. So he decided to close things up, and Robert says, okay, let's find another way into your house. We don't mind. The bishops and the pawn plus the knight will be enough to mate. With the king's help, the king becomes the hero, not the zero he was before. Okay, as they take our remaining knight, unfortunately there is no mate. And even if we get a queen, they could just chop it off. So, oh, we no longer have mate. Okay, what about now? What about if the bishop is here? What about if we get the other bishop there? So many mating ideas. And we're still offering more ice cream at the same time and distracting. Every time you offer a gift, they're distracted by it because now we're looking at them. Right? They don't have the time to help their king. Their king never moved, but we came after him. And now they want to get out of there, they want to move, but then they lose their queen. So Ross has to take more ice cream. And now we have a perpetual check. Sadly, there is no checkmate. Even if we try really hard, there is no checkmate because they can always stop us. They can always stop us with this rook. And the queen is coming in soon, so we better stop it before it stops us. So we have to do something urgent. And in this game, the only way to finish the combination was with a perpetual check. And the king keeps running back and forward, nothing to stop the checks. All the squares are taken away. Okay, and there is your draw. So at the end of the day, the king was the hero who helped us with the aid of this pawn to go after the black king, who barely survived after our heroic king walk. So we do have some exceptions, and the king is a fighting piece, especially when his forces support him.